What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to Nice Gaming. I'm McGarvin.
And I'm Kayla.
And you're tuned into our brand new show, Nice Cooking, where we try some popular pop culture recipes to determine if they're as nice as we are.
Today, we're trying to make the recipe for a perfect little girl. Let's get started.
Of course, we got to start with a heaping cup of sugar, brown for obvious reasons.
Obvious. Next, we're going to add a few pinches of spice. You can never go wrong with plenty of spice.
Super important here, everything nice. And you know what? We're going to give this one a double dose of nice.
There we go. Now, I don't know if you guys have used it before, but Chemical X. Let's try it out. Oh yeah. Stir it up.
Let's give this a try.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
What's going on?
Oh my gosh.
Ha! They told me cartoons would never teach me anything. Alright, so with Kayla off to give birth to our new baby girl, I figure I have just enough time to do a brand new episode of Renew or Revoke, where we look at your favorite things, but it's video games. And given how this morning has started, I figured now's the perfect time to talk about the Powerpuff Girls. But first, some background. Created by Craig McCracken in 1995, the Powerpuff Girls was one of the biggest pillars of the animation renaissance of the mid to late 90s, and tells the story of a trio of superpowered preschoolers who were created in a lab experiment gone wrong. Boasting an unforgettable crop of villains, the Powerpuff Girls pairs strong writing with an even stronger sense of humor and a perfect understanding of how much action is enough action. And even though the latest reboot has reduced the PPG name to meme status, the original Powerpuff Girls is something that is universally loved and fondly remembered to this day. Let's all just agree to pretend that 2016 never happened. So in a nutshell, the Powerpuff Girls were stupid popular. On top of their own theatrical movie release and an anime adaptation for whatever reason, the Powerpuff Girls also starred in a whopping 13 of their own games, including the subject of today's video, Relish Rampage. It wasn't a game that I got to play when I was younger, but Kayla always told me it was so good, so I decided now was a good time to try it for myself, and boy did I relish my time with it. I'm sorry, that was really bad. Story-wise, Relish Rampage starts off a little randomly, but if you stick with it, it starts to make sense. Sorta. The game opens during the election for mayor of Townsville, where Mojo is trailing the polls to mayor, who is running on a free pickle for free people policy. Not one to play fair, Mojo invents a brainwashing beam to convert mayor supporters into Mojo supporters, and with the help of the Gangrene Gang, begins brainwashing the masses. Just like real politicians. Fortunately, the Powerpuff Girls are here to save the day, and are able to stop the Gangrene Gang, destroy their transmitter, and curb the corruption. But the celebration is short-lived, as Miss Bellum informs the girls that Princess Morbucks is handing out bags of free money to help sway the vote. And while that's 10 times better than free pickles, it's also 10 times more illegal, so the girls don their red hats and overalls and start chasing after the princess. Though to be fair, Mojo's just using Princess to do what real politicians do. Buy those votes, baby! The girls are able to run Princess out of town and turn their sights back to Mojo, who has the final transmitter. Mojo, furious that he lost, laments the fact that the people of Townsville were so easily swayed by free pickles, and accidentally broadcasts his inane rantings into deep space, where a race of mutated pickles known as the Pickloids overhear it. After learning that the people of Townsville are suckers for pickles, the Pickloids take a detour from their outer space world domination and set their sights on the city of Townsville. The Pickloid invasion begins, and it's not long before the people of Townsville fall prey to the persuasive power of these pickle-themed pirates. Try saying that 3 times fast. With the city in disarray, the girls begin damage control to prevent the city's menagerie of villains from taking advantage of the chaos. A few petty crimes later, the girls learn from Professor Utonium that the key to snuffing out the invasion lies in taking out the queen of the Pickloids, who is taking control of local 5-year-old badass Mitch Mitchelson. I've never seen a more accurate shirt. Mitch does rock. The girls track down the queen, and after serving her up a platter of knuckle sandwiches, are able to free Mitch from the Pickloid's mind control and put a pause on the Townsville takeover. After having his queen eliminated, King Pickloid decides that leaving Earth with a new leader is a good consolation prize, so he strikes a deal with the mayor to become their new leader. KP takes the mayor off to Brine while the Pickloid foot soldiers begin collecting hostages as they ready their evacuation from Earth. At this point, Professor Utonium decides that now's the time to be a hero, and he rushes into the fray to help by infiltrating the Pickloid mothership. He's captured moments later. And that confirms Professor Utonium is not Samurai Jack. Jack wouldn't have been down this bad. With Professor now a hostage, and Mayor well on his way to becoming a delicious complement to a turkey and cheese on rye, the girls reach out for help from none other than Mojo Jojo, who agrees to help since he believes the Pickloids are interfering with his own plans for world domination. A known packer of that thing, Mojo arms the girls with enough firepower to knock Godzilla on his ass, and our heroes enter the Pickloid spaceship for one final showdown. After kicking ass and taking names, the Powerpuff Girls free Mayor, Professor, and the citizens of Townsville, and the Pickloids, having taken more L's than Cool J, leave Earth in search of an easier planet to invade. And with that, once again, the day is saved, thanks to the Powerpuff Girls. So like I said earlier, the story in this game's a little all over the place, but I don't necessarily think it was bad. I mean, sure, they were throwing villains at us all willy-nilly, and the lack of fuzzy lumpkins really chaps my ass, but that's kind of what you expect from a video game based on a cartoon. Besides, this game's not winning any awards for its story, but as far as I'm concerned, it should at least get a nomination for its presentation, because it's good. So right off the bat, I'll say this. Relish Rampage looks really good. And I don't mean really good for a licensed game or really good for a game released in 2002. I mean really good. Full stop. The game features these awesome cel-shaded character models, and if you know anything about me, you know that I'm a sucker for cel shading. It works perfectly for games based on cartoons, and I'll die on this hill that everything is better with cel shading. Compared to another game released in 2002 like Dragon Ball Z Budokai, and it's obvious which one's better. One game has perfect cel shading and looks awesome, and the other has perfect cel and looks like Gumby. I still play Budokai though, because perfect cel owns. Character models aside, the environment here is pretty sick too. The city is designed to look like it was lifted straight out of an animation cell and does a great job with scaling, so when you're zooming through the skies fighting crime, you actually feel like you're a small child in a big city. But my favorite part about this game's art direction is easily the cutscenes. Before and after every story chapter, there's a cutscene that plays which features these incredibly high quality character models. They're better than the in-game models, but the difference between the two isn't so big that it's jarring, but it is big enough to let you know that the cutscenes were handled with a little extra TLC. That said, it's not just the visuals that are high quality. Sonically, there's so much to like about Relish Rampage, but its biggest W comes by way of its voice acting. All of the voice actors from the original series are back, and they've all broken their foot off in this one. The voice direction here might just be the greatest I've ever seen from a licensed game. In fact, I'm not 100% convinced that this game's dialogue wasn't recorded for the series and later repurposed. It's that well done. And like I said, everyone in this game sounds great, but I can't let this segment end without a shout out to Tom Kenny as Mayor, for he delivers one of the greatest non-SpongeBob performances of his career.
Did you say free pickles? You got yourself a deal. You did say free pickles, right?
You have chosen wisely. Begin the brining process. Once you have been brined, you will be a true pickle, and together we shall rule the universe!
Uh-oh, what have I done? Powerpuff Girls, help!
The awesome sound design doesn't stop at the voice work though. The music in Relish Rampage is also superb. It's not ripped straight from the show or anything, but it all sounds like it could be if you know what I mean. The same goes for the sound effects. They're all crispy and satisfying, but to me, the pièce de résistance of the sound design is the whoosh sound the girls make when they fly. If you've ever watched the show, then you know exactly what sound I mean. It's absolutely immaculate, and it's weirdly one of my absolute favorite parts of this game. There's really nothing in this game's presentation that I don't love, but there are a few things in some other departments that definitely leave a sour taste in my mouth. And no, that's not just a pickle pun. My biggest knock on Relish Rampage is how elementary it all felt. Like, yeah, it's a kid's game, so it shouldn't be too hard, but this is a little ridiculous. Most of the game's missions involve flying from point A to point B and then back to point A. When you're not doing that, you're fighting some jobber of a boss battle that can easily be completed by flying around in circles and spamming the attack button. Put simply, it's hands down the easiest game we've talked about on this show so far, and as a result, it's also the shortest. My playthrough for this review lasted about 3 hours, but I've seen people who are actually good at video games clear it in less than 2. The game's lack of content was never more obvious than when I began outlining the script, and I realized how many of the game's missions were actually just remixed versions of previous missions. And sometimes, they weren't even remixed, just the same mission a second or third time. And I actually like this game, but fair is fair, and to be fair, I've seen less padding in an NFL equipment room. Stability-wise, the game is mostly unproblematic, and at its peak it runs buttery smooth. But there are some moments where the game starts dragging its legs like Michael Jackson in Thriller. It's not often, but it's something that you can't ignore, and it's especially bad at the end of every objective, where the game basically freezes for a second or two. It's not really that big a deal, but it happens enough to be worth mentioning. But if I'm being honest, if something as minor as a 2-second frame drop every 10 minutes can make the list of complaints, then that should tell you that the overall experience for this game was generally a good one. What really makes Relish Rampage stand out to me is how well it does what it does. What it lacks in technical depth, it more than makes up for in terms of presentation. The game plays smoothly, looks and sounds fantastic, and is genuinely a fun time to play, even if it is laughably easy and shorter than most 2-year-olds. The game isn't perfect, but it does what it aims to do perfectly. It feels like an episode of the show was made playable, and that's exactly what I'm looking for when I pick up a new licensed game. And for that, Powerpuff Girls Relish Rampage earns a renew. At the end of the day, not every game needs to be a groundbreaking experience that pushes the envelope, and this game is a perfect example of something that doesn't do a whole lot, but does what it does very well. So well, in fact, that you can't help but be impressed. I think the best way to sum up Relish Rampage is quality over quantity. There's not much to this game, but what is here is done supremely well. I think it's the kind of game that you should pick up if you're a fan of the series with a few hours to burn. Just don't expect it to trigger the Dark Soul center of your brain. Thank you for watching, and if you like what you saw, leave us a like, comment, subscribe, and join us next time as we get tiny, toony, and a little loony. Now, if you excuse me, I think Kayla just got home, and I'm ready to see my new baby girl.
It's a boy.
Where did we go wrong? Oh, that explains it.